Massie set the clock. 67 seconds. He said it out loud before he said anything else, before any preamble or framing or setup. Mr. Director, I have 67 seconds of questions. 17 files. One answer I want from you at the end. Patel looked at him, then at the stack of folders, then back at Massie. Massie opened the first file. He read one line. He set it down. He opened the second. One line. Set it down. Third, fourth. He moved through all 17 in under a minute, one line from each, one name or one date or one transaction amount, setting each file down in a row as he went, building a line of documents across the table. At 62 seconds, he stopped. He looked at the 17 files arranged in a single line in front of Patel. He looked at Patel. You have seen all of these before. Haven't you, missed you, Director? Patel did not answer for 11 full seconds. And then he said yes. If you are new to the Hill Report, subscribe right now. Because that yes, and the 17 files that produced it, is now permanently in the congressional record. And what Massie asked next, with exactly 5 seconds remaining on his clock, is the question nobody in that room had prepared an answer for. House Oversight Committee. Tuesday morning, 10:47 a.m. Eastern, the hearing had been scheduled as oversight of FBI document management and evidence preservation practices, a subject that, on paper, produces careful process-oriented answers and careful process-oriented questions, the kind of session that ends without a moment anyone remembers. Massie had spent 4 weeks building a sequence, not a cross-examination, not a document-by-document interrogation that gives the witness time to consult between each exchange. A sequence, 17 files, each one sourced from the Epstein evidence archive through declassification, requests his office had filed over the preceding 8 months, requests that had been processed slowly, partially, and in several cases honored only after formal escalation. But that had, cumulatively, produced 17 documents that Massie's team had authenticated independently before bringing them into the chamber. The documents ranged across the full scope of the Epstein investigation, financial records, witness interview summaries, travel logs, communication intercepts, and 2 files that had never appeared in any prior public or congressional proceeding in any form. Massie had not told the committee or any of its staff what he was going to do with them. He had simply listed them in his hearing materials as exhibits, provided them to the committee in advance as required, and waited for his turn in the questioning queue. Massie was the 10th member to question Patel that morning. He sat down without the usual arrangement of papers that members typically spread before beginning. He set the 17 folders on the table in a single stack, arranged in the order he intended to use them, a stack that was visibly thicker than what any other member had brought. He set a small timer on the table beside the stack. He looked at Patel. He said, 67 seconds. Patel looked at the timer. Massie started it and began. File 1. He opened it to the marked page. Read one line aloud, clearly into the microphone. A wire transfer, 8 figures, originating from an account later linked to Epstein's management structure. He set it down. File 2. One line. A travel log entry placing an unnamed senior official at a specific location on a specific date. Set it down. File 3. A communication summary, dated, 1 line. Set it down. File 4 through 9 followed the exact same pattern, 1 line each, delivered at the steady, rehearsed pace of someone who has practiced this sequence enough times to know precisely how long each individual line takes to read aloud. File 10 was the first of the 2 documents that had never appeared publicly in any prior proceeding. Massie read its single line without pausing, without inflection, without marking it differently from the other 9 that had come before it. The room did not know yet that it was different. File 11 through 16 continued the same relentless pattern. At File 17, the last one, Massie read the line, set it down with the same unhurried motion he had used for every other file, and looked at the row of 17 documents now arranged in a single line across the table. Patel's lead attorney leaned in immediately. The timer was still running, visibly, on the table. 8 seconds passed. Then Patel's attorney began to speak, beginning to frame an objection. Massie held up a hand without looking at the attorney. The question was to the director. He looked directly at Patel. The timer read 53 seconds elapsed. Patel looked at the row of 17 files arranged across the table in front of him. He looked at the timer. He looked at Massie. Yes, he said it without elaboration, without qualification, without the attorney leaning in again, without reaching for any of the institutional language that had carried him through the previous 2 hours of this hearing smoothly and without incident. Just yes, one syllable, into the microphone, on the record. Massie looked at the timer. 62 seconds elapsed. He looked at the committee briefly, then back at Patel. He asked his final question, the one with 5 seconds left on the clock, the one the room had no way to have prepared for. Then why hasn't your agency acted on any of them? The room broke open immediately, not gradually, not the slow build of a chamber working itself up. The moment the sentence landed, all at once. 3 members speaking simultaneously from different points on the dice. Patel's attorneys both standing before anyone had finished their first sentence. The chairman gaveling twice in rapid succession without immediate effect on the volume in the room. Massie had not moved a single inch. He sat with the exact same posture he had maintained through the entire 67-second sequence. No lean, no raised voice, no performance, no visible awareness that the room had changed, and waited for it to catch up to what had just happened in front of it. When it finally settled enough for a single voice to be heard, Patel said, "Congressman, the FBI's approach to the materials you have referenced involves active law enforcement considerations that prevent me from characterizing the current status of any review or action in an open session of this kind." Massie looked at him. "You just confirmed you have seen all 17 files." He touched the row on the table. "Active law enforcement considerations are the reason action is taken, Mr. Director, not the reason it isn't. What consideration is preventing action on 17 Epstein files you acknowledge your agency has had?" The Hill report. Stop here. Because Massie just did something no previous member in this hearing cycle had done. He got Patel to confirm, in a single word, that the FBI has had access to all 17 files. And then he asked why no action has followed on any of them. That is not a rhetorical question in this context. It is a demand for an explanation that either has a specific answer or doesn't have one, and in either case, the absence or presence of that answer is now entered into the congressional record and will remain there. Subscribe to the Hill Report right now and hit the bell. Because what Patel says next is not the answer Massie asked for, and Massie's response to it is the sharpest exchange in this hearing cycle so far. Patel looked at both his attorneys. A long consultation, the longest of the hearing. Then Patel turned back. "Congressman, I want to be direct. The FBI takes the Epstein investigation seriously. Every file that has come through our processes has been reviewed according to applicable legal and evidentiary standards, and I can assure this committee that no file has been ignored or dismissed without appropriate consideration." Massie looked at him. He looked at the 17 files. He picked up file 10, one of the 2 that had never appeared publicly before. He held it up. "This file has been in your agency's possession for 4 years. He held up file 17. "This one has been in your possession for 2 years and 4 months. He set both down. "Reviewed according to applicable standards." He said it back to Patel quietly. He looked at the committee. "Mr. Director, if reviewing a file according to applicable standards is indistinguishable from taking no action, then the assurance you just gave this committee means nothing." He paused. "What has happened with these files, specifically?" "Not the assurance. The action." Patel said nothing for 9 seconds. "Then, Congressman, I cannot characterize specific file actions in open session without risking law enforcement privilege protections that exist for good reason, and I would be prepared to address these materials in a classified setting where I could speak more completely." Massie looked at him. He looked at the 17 files. He looked at the timer, now stopped at 67 seconds since he had pressed it again to mark the beginning of this follow-up. He gathered the files in a stack slowly, one at a time, replacing them in the same order he had read them, unhurried. Mr. Chairman, I move to enter all 17 files into the congressional record. I move that this committee schedule a classified session within 30 days specifically for the director to address the current status of each of the 17 files referenced today. And I move that the committee require the director to provide, in writing within 10 days, an accounting of when each file was first reviewed, by whom, under what authority, and what determination was reached. All three motions were seconded by members from both sides of the committee before Massie finished reading the third motion aloud. All three passed unanimously without a single recorded objection. Massie looked at Patel one final time. He did not raise his voice. He had not raised it once in the entire exchange. Mr. Director, 67 seconds. 17 files. 1 yes. He said it simply, the way someone summarizes a sequence that does not need additional emphasis. The record has all three. And now, the classified session has 30 days to produce the rest. I yield back. Mr. Chairman, Patel left without making a statement to the press, moving quickly through the corridor with both attorneys flanking him. The FBI press office issued a release before the end of the day stating that the Bureau remains committed to thorough and appropriate handling of all materials related to the Epstein investigation and will cooperate with congressional oversight through proper channels. The release did not address any of the 17 files specifically by name or reference number. It did not explain the yes. It did not characterize any action taken or not taken on any individual file. But the 17 files themselves, the 67-second sequence, the single-word confirmation, and the 3 referrals, including the 30-day classified session requirement, are now permanently in the House Oversight Committee record. Subscribe to the Hill Report right now and share this video with everyone you know immediately. Tomorrow, we release all 17 files in the exact order Massie read them, one line from each, exactly as he read them into the congressional record, with the 2 previously undisclosed files clearly identified and contextualized. Massie set a timer, read 17 separate Epstein files in 67 seconds, laid them in a row on the table, asked Patel one question, got one word, and then asked the follow-up that broke the room open before the timer had even finished. Share this video. The record is public, and the yes is in it.